Amendment 3 will impose a cap on the revenue spending for public services. In 1992, an almost identical act was passed in Colorado under the name of TABOR, under the TABOR Act. In 1992, the state of Colorado was already spending $300 less than the national average per student in their educational system. Within a matter of a few years, they were spending over $1,000 below the national average because of the cuts that were imposed under the TABOR Act. They went from number 5 in the country with respect to education to number 45. They also received major cuts to senior services, as well as cuts to police departments, fire departments, public road construction, and all of the things that the state currently provides funding for.
We believe that every child has the right to qualify to a quality education, which is essential for all young people to thrive and find good jobs. And yet school budgets are being cut and some schools forced to close. On the ballot in November is an amendment to the state constitution that, if it passes, will permanently limit the money that the state is allowed to spend. A measure similar to Amendment 3 passed in Colorado 10 years ago, and funding for schools, seniors, and safety workers has been drastically cut. This sounds like a bill that's going to do something terrible to the economy and to those less fortunate. So I'd like to know, this is a two-part question. What are your views on Amendment 3? And what do you think should be done to improve the public school system in our state?
Amendment 3 is very similar to the bill that passed in Colorado. It was called the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, better known as TABOR. And it sets a spending limit. And because of Florida's economy and the way that it fluctuates, I am opposed to any spending limits. If, for example, we had set a spending limit 5 years ago when the nation and the state was in a recession, we would cap spending for schools and roads and health care at a 5-year low. Well, now that the economy is on the upswing and we still have needs for those services, having a spending cap would have been a problem for the state of Florida. So I am not in favor of spending limits or any kind of bill such as TABOR. And Colorado rescinded that bill because it was disastrous for public schools. What I think we need to do for schools is to recognize that teachers and educational professionals are the experts when it comes to dealing with our children. And I think for too long the Florida legislature has tried to micromanage our schools, and so we get the FCAT, which is not a reliable assessment tool. It's totally arbitrary. We saw that with the writing scores this year, where you were supposed to originally get 4 out of 6. We didn't like the results, so we said, okay, you can have 3 out of 6. So I think we need to go back to a point where the teachers are the ones who assess what a student knows.
Putting a cap on the government revenue is including expansion for programs here and allowing the school system to improve. We already have a school system that is broken. We need more funds to finance the programs that are needed to allow our children to receive the right education. We need to invest in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to provide a skilled workforce here in Florida and around the nation. So in my case, I'm opposed to any limitation of revenue for the state because the state has to have money, plenty of money, to fix all the programs needed in good and bad times.
I want to make it abundantly clear that I am against Amendment 3 100%. If you ask me, this is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Its plan is to change the structure to allow us from gaining our revenue source from, our spending cap from income growth. and then changing that structure to getting that revenue and spending cap from our cost of living, and then also our population influx. So if you ask me, that's an attack on the middle class while sparing the super rich, allowing the people who continue to grow the revenue the most at the top tier of our population in Florida to receive tax breaks while the rest of us foot the bill. So I would like to make it clear I'm against Amendment 3. It is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and to improve the school systems, I would like to get rid of the FCAT first and foremost. As Ms. Thompson mentioned, that our teachers are the professionals on the ground. They know what our schools need, and they know what's best for the education of our young people. Do we get 2 minutes? Is this 2 questions? One last thing, I'm sorry. I would like to see teachers have more and more benefits and increase in pay. They're the leaders of our future tomorrow, and I think if we don't invest in them, then we're not investing in our own country.
I'm one of the Belle Isle City Commissioners and Vice Mayor, and we opposed this a year ago when it came up. We did a resolution to our state legislators opposing it. I also served on the legislative committee for the Florida League of Cities. This is not a good thing. It created a fiasco in Colorado. Over 68,000 people lost their jobs. Crime went up, and it was just a disaster. We don't want to see that happen here. So my view is absolutely not no Tabor. And another thing it does, it limits the cities on how they can raise increases, how they can do revenues, and it's just not a good thing. As far as education, I also sit on the governing board for Cornerstone Charter Academy in Belle Isle, which we started a K-12 school, and it gave me a whole new perspective on education. One of the things that we need to do is we need to make sure when that half-cent sales tax comes up again, it passes for education. We also need, and I would love to do this, some kind of audit on the lottery money. Lottery is supposed to be for education. Where does it go? No one knows. A lot of it doesn't go to where it says it's going to go, imagine that. So those are some of the things that we need to do. FCAT is going to be diminished. They are going to bring in new testing next year. I apologize, I forgot what the new test is going to be called, but those are some of the things that we can do to be more effective.
Thank you. I agree to a great extent with this distinguished panel. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights sounds like a good thing, but it absolutely curtails and handcuffs local control and the ability to legislate and to provide the funding that we need in the different parts of our community and our system. So I'm totally against it. As noted, we've seen the travesties that have gone on when this has passed. Colorado, the first thing that was hit was education. So while this sounds like a good thing, it curtails revenue and it handcuffs all of us going forward. To improve our schools on the local level, we need to do just that, bring more decision making to the local level. But we all know revenue is tight. So we're going to have to be very innovative as far as public and private initiatives. Our parents are going to have to be involved, and we're going to need to really provide a platform so that parents can be empowered to be engaged in the school system, to be supporting their teachers, and certainly to take FCAT out of the picture.